Chicago's loop pulsed with late afternoon energy, the August sun glinting off skyscrapers, as Amara Jackson, a 26-year-old Black American woman, pedaled her bike through the crowded streets. Her dark skin glistened with sweat under her delivery helmet, her braided hair tucked neatly beneath it. She dodged a taxi, her insulated delivery bag bouncing against her back. This last order for Carter & Stone, a prestigious law firm, was her final sprint to make rent for her South Side apartment. Time was tight. Her shift at Quick Bite Delivery ended in 20 minutes, and every second counted. "Come on, Amara. You've got this," she muttered, weaving past a distracted pedestrian glued to his phone. At 33 N LaSalle Street, she locked her bike and dashed into the sleek lobby of Carter & Stone, its marble floors and glass walls screaming wealth. Amara, in her worn sneakers and neon delivery jacket, felt like an intruder in this world of tailored suits and polished briefcases. The receptionist, a blonde woman with a French manicured smile, barely glanced up as Amara flashed her delivery pass. "Elevators that way," she said, pointing with a pen. Amara nodded, her heart racing not from the ride, but from the pressure of this final drop-off. She slipped into the crowded elevator, just as the doors began to close, squeezing in beside a group of lawyers in crisp suits, their chatter filled with legal jargon about multi-million-dollar mergers. At 32, James Carter, a white American man with piercing blue eyes and neatly styled chestnut hair, stepped in last, his tailored navy suit accentuating his tall frame. His fair skin contrasted with Amara's, and his confident stride marked him as someone used to commanding rooms. The elevator groaned, then let out a shrill beep, beep, beep. A lawyer glanced at the digital panel and frowned weight limit. "Someone's got to get out." The group exchanged awkward glances. Amara, clutching her delivery bag, felt the weight of their stares. Her jacket and sneakers starkly contrasted to their polished attire. She locked eyes with James, who raised an eyebrow, clearly unused to being challenged. Amara said the last one in should step out, her voice steady, despite her nerves. Basic elevator etiquette, right? Her tone carried a playful edge, but her point was clear. A lawyer stifled a chuckle, murmuring, "She's got a point." James crossed his arms, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "I'm not leaving. I've got a meeting upstairs." His voice was smooth, authoritative, but not unkind. Amara mirrored his stance, undeterred. "And I've got a delivery to make. Just as important." The lawyers shifted uncomfortably, caught in the standoff. Finally, one sighed and stepped out, muttering, "Let's get this over with." The doors closed, and the elevator hummed upward. Amara glanced at James, who studied her with curiosity. "You don't back down, do you?" he said, his smirk softening into something like admiration. She shrugged, keeping it light. "Not when I'm on the clock." The elevator dinged at the 28th floor, and the lawyers spilled out, ignoring Amara as they rushed to their meeting. She followed, checking her delivery app. The recipient was James Carter, CEO. Her stomach dropped. Was the guy from the elevator the CEO? She knocked on his office door, a glass-walled space, with a view of Lake Michigan. James looked up from his desk, surprised. "You again?" Amara forced a smile, setting the takeout bag down, with a touch more force than needed. "Your food, Mr. CEO who can't wait for an elevator." Her dark eyes sparkled with defiance. His fair skin catching the office light, James leaned back, holding back a laugh. "You've got nerve. Ever thought about more than delivering food?" Amara narrowed her eyes. "Why does everyone assume I want more?" But his words lingered. She had wanted more once. As she left, James called out, "Hey, where are you from?" "Chicago, born and raised." Amara paused, grinning. "South Side, through and through." "You?" He smiled back. "Lincoln Park." "But I worked my way up." She nodded, filing that away. "Enjoy your food, Mr. Carter." As she headed out, James watched her go. His curiosity piqued. This wasn't just a delivery girl. She was something else entirely. Amara pedaled through the twilight streets of Chicago's South Side, the city's skyline fading behind her as she navigated toward her modest apartment building. The weight of the day clung to her, like the humid August air. Her bold standoff with James Carter, CEO of Carter & Stone, replayed in her mind. His business card, tucked in her delivery jacket pocket, felt like a challenge and a promise. She parked her bike, locked it to a rusty pole, and climbed the creaky stairs to her third-floor apartment, the smell of fried plantains wafting from a neighbor's open window. Inside, her roommate, Nia, sprawled on their thrift store couch, munching on a bowl of popcorn, while a reality show blared on their ancient TV. With her vibrant afro and infectious grin, Nia looked up as Amara flopped onto an armchair, kicking off her sneakers. "Girl, you look like you just went 10 rounds with a lawyer," Nia teased, tossing a piece of popcorn at her. Amara caught it midair and popped it into her mouth. "Close. I argued with the CEO of Carter & Stone in an elevator. He didn't budge, but neither did I." Nia's eyes widened, and she muted the TV. "Wait. The CEO. Spill it." Amara recounted the elevator clash, mimicking James's smirk and defiant retort about elevator etiquette. Nia cackled, slapping the couch. "You told a CEO to step out, Amara. You're fearless." But when Amara mentioned delivering his food and his cryptic comment about her doing more than giving, Nia leaned forward, intrigued. "Hold up. Did he offer you something?" Amara pulled out James's card, its embossed Carter & Stone logo gleaming under the dim apartment light. "He said to come by tomorrow." "Something about a job." Nia gasped, nearly spilling her popcorn. "A job. At a fancy law firm. Amara, this could be your way back." Amara's smile faded, and she sank deeper into the chair, her fingers tracing the card's edges. The weight of her past settled over her like a heavy fog. 2 years ago, Amara had been a star student at Chicago-Kent College of Law. She spent her nights poring over case law in the library, dreaming of becoming a public defender to fight for people like those in her Southside community. But when her mother fell ill with cancer, medical bills piled up faster than Amara could manage. She dropped out, taking up delivery work to cover costs and keep her younger brother Malik in school. Her mother recovered, but the financial strain lingered, and Amara's dreams of law felt like a distant memory. "I don't know, Nia," she said softly. "That world chewed me up once. What if I don't belong there?" Nia slid closer, her voice firm but kind. "You belong anywhere you choose to show up. You were at the top of your class before life got in the way. This CEO guy saw something in you, and I did the same." Amara stared at the card, her reflection faint in its glossy surface. She thought of her mother's pride when she'd started law school, how Malik looked up to her, and the fire she'd felt arguing with James today. That fire hadn't died. It was still there, buried under doubt and exhaustion. "What if I fail?" Amara whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the TV. Nia reached over, squeezing her hand. "Then you get back up like you always do. But you won't know unless you try. Take the meeting, Amara. You've got nothing to lose." Amara nodded slowly, her resolve hardening. She'd spent 2 years delivering other people's orders, always on the outside looking in. Maybe this was her chance to step back into the fight, not just for herself, but for the dreams she'd shelved. She stood, tucking the card into her pocket with a small, determined smile. "All right, Nia. I'll go. But if this blows up, you're buying me ice cream." Nia laughed, tossing another piece of popcorn. "Deal. Now tell me more about this CEO. Is he cute?" Amara rolled her eyes, grabbed a pillow, and threw it at her friend. Focus, Nia. This is about a job, not a rom-com. But as she headed to her room, James's curious smirk flashed in her mind, and she couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow might change everything. Amara stepped off the bus at the corner of LaSalle and Monroe, her heart pounding as she faced the towering glass facade of Carter and Stone. The Chicago morning buzzed with commuters, but she felt like she was entering a different world. Gone was her neon delivery jacket. Today she wore a navy blazer from a thrift store, its slightly frayed cuffs hidden under her sleeves paired with black pants and flats that pinched her toes. She clutched a worn notebook, her law school notes tucked inside for courage, and took a deep breath. "You've got this," she whispered, echoing Nia's pep talk from last night. Inside, the lobby's marble floors gleamed under chandeliers, and the receptionist, the same polished woman from yesterday, raised an eyebrow. "Back again," she said, her tone more curious than dismissive. Amara flashed a tight smile. "Here to see Mr. Carter. He's expecting me." The woman nodded, picking up the phone. "Mr. Carter, your guest is here." After a brief pause, she gestured to the elevators on the 28th floor. "Don't crowd it this time." Amara grinned, catching the hint of humor. "No promises." The elevator ride was smoother, without yesterday's chaos, but her nerves jangled louder than any alarm. She hadn't set foot in a law firm since dropping out of Chicago, Kent, and the weight of that unfinished dream pressed on her. What if James's offer was a fluke? What if she choked? The doors opened to a sleek office buzzing with activity. Lawyers in tailored suits darted between glass-walled rooms, their voices a low hum of legal jargon. Amara straightened her posture, channeling the confidence she'd faked in the elevator yesterday. James's office door was open, and he stood behind his desk reviewing papers. He looked up, his blue eyes lighting with recognition. "Amara, right on time," he said, his voice warm but professional. He gestured to a leather chair across from him. "Have a seat." She sat, smoothing her blazer, aware of how her thrift store outfit clashed with the room's luxury. James slid a folder across the desk. "I want to see what you're made of. This is a mock case, wrongful termination. An employee was fired without cause. How would they fight it?" Amara opened the folder, her pulse quickening. The case was dense. A contract, a termination letter, and employment records. She recognized the structure from her law school days. Labor law, one of her strengths. "You're testing me already," she said, raising an eyebrow. James leaned back, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "I'm curious. You held your own yesterday. Let's see if it was a one-time thing." His challenge sparked something in her, a mix of defiance and determination. She skimmed the documents, her mind racing. "It depends on the contract's terms." She began, her voice steady. "If there's no just cause clause, the employee could claim breach of agreement under Illinois labor laws. Without prior notice, they're entitled to compensation, potentially up to 3 months' wages, depending on service length." She pointed to a clause. "This termination letter cites performance issues, but no documented evidence. That's a weak defense. The employee could argue unfair dismissal and demand reinstatement or damages." James's smirk faded into a nod of approval. "You've done this before." Amara hesitated, then admitted that I had studied law for 2 years. Didn't finish. She braced for judgment, but James's expression stayed open. "Why not?" he asked, not unkindly. She looked away, her fingers tightening on the folder. Life got in the way. He didn't press, instead, handing her a pen. "Write up a brief argument for the employee. Take your time." Amara pored over the case for the next hour, her law school instincts kicking in. She cited statutes, cross-referenced contract clauses, and drafted a concise argument, her handwriting neat despite her racing thoughts. When she slid the paper back to James, he read it silently, his brow furrowing slightly. "This is solid," he said finally. "Better than some associates here." Amara's chest loosened, but she kept her calm. So I pass. James leaned forward, his gaze intense. I'm offering you a job as my assistant, and not fetching coffee, real work, reviewing contracts, sitting in on meetings. You'd learn fast, and I think you can handle it. Amara blinked, the offer hitting like a gust of Lake Michigan wind. A law firm job after 2 years of delivering takeout. It felt too good to be true. Why me? She asked, her voice cautious. You don't know me. I know enough, James said. You're sharp, bold, and you don't back down. That's rare. He paused, then added, but you'd be stepping into a tough room. Not everyone here will welcome you. Amara thought of the receptionist's glance and the lawyer's stares from yesterday. She knew what he meant. An outsider like her would face scrutiny in a place like this. But the fire from her law school days flickered brighter. I'm not afraid of tough, she said, meeting his eyes. I'm in. James smiled, extending a hand. Welcome to Carter & Stone, Amara. She shook at her grip firm, feeling the weight of a new beginning. As she left his office, the card he'd given her was now a contract. She knew this was her shot to reclaim her place in the world she'd left behind. But the whispers from passing lawyers told her it wouldn't be easy. Amara stepped into Carter & Stone's 28th floor office, her thrift store blazer swapped for a crisp white blouse and black slacks, her braided hair pulled into a neat bun. The Chicago skyline sparkled through the glass walls, but the air inside buzzed with a different energy, sharp, competitive, and unwelcoming. It was her first official day as James's assistant, and the weight of every glance from passing lawyers felt like a silent challenge. She clutched a stack of files James had given her, her law school instincts humming beneath her nerves. This wasn't just a job, it was a battlefield. James's secretary, Lena, greeted her with a warm smile, her curly hair bouncing as she handed Amara a coffee. Welcome to the Lion's Den, Lena said, gesturing to the open-plan office where attorneys typed furiously or huddled in glass-walled meeting rooms. Don't let the suits intimidate you. They're just jealous James picked you. Amara sipped the coffee, grateful for the ally. Jealous? I'm just here to do the work. Lena raised an eyebrow. Exactly. That's what scares them. As Amara sat up at her desk near James's office, a tall attorney with slicked-back hair and a smug grin approached. Victor Reynolds, a senior lawyer with ambitions to outshine James, leaned against her desk, his tone dripping with condescension. So, you're the delivery girl, turned assistant. Quite the leap. Amara met his gaze, her voice calm but edged. It's Amara, and I'm here because I earned it. You got a problem with that? Victor smirked. We'll see how long you last in this world. Before she could respond, James emerged from his office, a folder in hand. Amara, please review these contracts by noon. Victor, don't you have a deposition to prep for? Victor's smirk faltered and stalked off, but his parting glance told Amara this wasn't over. James handed her the folder, his expression softening. Ignore him. Focus on the work. She nodded, but the sting of Victor's words lingered. She wasn't just an outsider here. She was a threat to the firm's old guard, and they didn't like it. Amara grabbed a water bottle at the office kitchen during a break, catching whispers from 2 lawyers nearby. No degree, no experience. How'd she get hired? One muttered. The other shrugged, Carter's playing favorites. Amara's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure, remembering her mother's advice. Don't let their doubts become yours. She returned to her desk, diving into the contracts. The legal jargon was familiar, like a song she hadn't sung in years, but the stakes felt higher now. Every clause she flagged, every note she scribbled, was a step toward proving she belonged. Lena slid into the chair beside her, lowering her voice. Word of advice. Victor's gunning for James's job. You're a wild card. He thinks you're James's pet project. Watch your back. Amara paused, pen hovering over a contract. Why is he so threatened? I'm just an assistant. Lena snorted. Because you're good and he knows it. Plus, this place isn't exactly known for diversity. You being here shakes things up. Amara nodded, the unspoken truth settling in. Carter and Stone's polished hallways hid a culture where she'd have to fight twice as hard to be considered equal. By midday, Amara finished the contract review, spotting a vague termination clause that could expose a client to liability. She flagged it with a sticky note and dropped the folder on James's desk. He scanned her work, his eyes narrowing in approval. Nice catch. Most would have missed that. Amara shrugged, keeping it light. I'm not like most people. James chuckled, but his gaze held a flicker of respect. No, you're not. Keep it up, and Victor's got no shot at undermining you. As she left his office, Amara felt a spark of confidence. Victor's snide remarks and the whispers stung, but they also fueled her. She'd faced worse eviction notices, late-night hospital visits with her mom, and come out stronger. This firm was just another challenge. She was ready to fight for her place. But as she passed Victor's desk, his cold stare promised trouble. Let him try, she thought. She wasn't going anywhere. Amara sat at her desk in Carter and Stone's bustling 28th floor office, the Chicago skyline, a hazy backdrop through the glass walls. Her fingers flew across a contract, annotating clauses with a red pen, the familiar rhythm of legal analysis grounding her. It was her third day, and the whispers from passing lawyers, some curious, some cutting, hadn't stopped. She ignored them, focusing on the task James had given her that morning: prepare for a meeting with Ms. Harper, a tech executive negotiating a major partnership deal. The stakes were high, and Amara felt the weight of proving she wasn't just James's gamble. Lena popped by, balancing a stack of files and a mischievous grin. Ready to dazzle the client? She asked, adjusting her glasses. Amara smirked, tucking a stray braid behind her ear. If by dazzle you mean not messing this up, then yeah. Lena leaned closer, her voice low. Word is Victor's itching to trip you up in there. He's telling everyone you'll choke without a law degree. Amara's jaw tightened, but she kept her tone light. Let him talk. I've got this. Lena winked. That's my girl. At 2 p.m., Amara entered the conference room, clutching the annotated contract. James sat at the head of the table, his navy suit crisp, his expression calm but expectant. Victor lounged across from him, his slicked back hair gleaming under the fluorescent lights, a smug smile playing on his lips. Ms. Harper, a sharp-eyed woman with a sleek bob and a tailored blazer, sat waiting, her presence commanding. Amara noted Ms. Harper's subtle nod, a flicker of recognition that felt more than professional courtesy. James gestured to Amara. Ms. Harper, this is Amara Jackson, my assistant. She's reviewed your contract. Victor's smile tightened, but he said nothing. Amara took a deep breath and opened the folder. Ms. Harper, a clause in Section 4.2, could expose your company to liability if the partner terminates early. She slid the document across, pointing to a highlighted section. It's vague on penalty terms, which could let them walk away without compensation. I suggest tightening it to specify a fixed penalty tied to project milestones. Ms. Harper scanned the clause, her brow furrowing. Good catch. That could have cost us millions. Victor leaned forward, his tone smooth but sharp. With all due respect, Ms. Harper, contract revisions need a lawyer's expertise. Amara's background might not cover the nuances. Amara's pulse spiked, but she kept her voice steady. The nuance here is simple, Victor. Ambiguity favors the other side. My revision protects Ms. Harper's interests under Illinois contract law. She cited a statute, her law school training kicking in like muscle memory. Ms. Harper's lips curved into a smile. I like clarity, Ms. Jackson. Your fix works. She turned to James. She's sharp. Where'd you find her? James grinned. She found me. Amara felt a flush of pride, but Victor's scowl deepened. Ms. Harper leaned toward Amara, her voice quieter. You remind me of myself starting. Keep pushing. They don't make it easy for women like us. The words laced with shared understanding hit Amara hard. She nodded, a silent bond forming. As the meeting wrapped, Ms. Harper signed off on the revised contract, shaking Amara's hand firmly. I'll be watching your career, Amara. James escorted her out, leaving Amara and Victor in the room. Victor stood, his voice low. Don't get cocky. One win doesn't make you a lawyer. Amara met his gaze, unflinching. And one loss doesn't make you irrelevant, but you're trying hard. Victor's face reddened, and he stormed out, leaving Amara to gather her papers with a quiet smirk. Back at her desk, Lena high-fived her. You slayed in there, Victor's fuming. Amara laughed, but the weight of Ms. Harper's words lingered. She wasn't just fighting for a job, she was challenging a system that didn't expect her to succeed. James stopped by, leaning against her desk. You handled that like a pro. Victor's not happy, but the client is. That's what matters. Amara nodded, her confidence growing. I'm just getting started. But as she watched Victor glare from across the office, she knew the real fight was far from over. The Carter and Stone office was a ghost town at 9 p.m., the Chicago skyline glittering through the glass walls like a distant promise. Amara sat alone at her desk, her braided bun slightly loosened from a long day, surrounded by a fortress of contracts and sticky notes. The glow of her desk lamp cast shadows over her scribbled annotations, each one a small victory in her battle to prove herself. But tonight, the weight of that fight felt heavier than ever. Victor's snide remarks, the lawyer's whispers, and the pressure to be flawless gnawed at her. What if she wasn't enough? She rubbed her eyes, the words on the latest contract, a merger deal worth millions, blurring. Her success with Ms. Harper earlier that week boosted her confidence, but also raised the stakes. Her every move was scrutinized, and Victor waited for her to slip. Amara's mind drifted to her law school days, when she'd burned the midnight oil dreaming of justice, only to have those dreams derailed by hospital bills and family responsibilities. Now in this sleek office, she felt like an imposter, a delivery worker, playing dress-up in a world that didn't want her. Footsteps broke her thoughts. James appeared, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, a cup of coffee in hand. Still here? He asked, leaning against her desk with a concerned frown. Amara forced a smile, tucking a stray braid behind her ear, and just finishing this merger contract. You said it's due tomorrow. He set the coffee beside her, its warmth a small comfort. You don't have to kill yourself over it. You've already done more than most. Amara's smile faltered. She stared at the contract, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I'm not cut out for this? James, everyone's waiting for me to fail, Victor, the others. Sometimes I think they're right. The admission slipped out before she could stop it, raw and unguarded. She braced for a pep talk, but James pulled up a chair, sitting close enough that she caught the faint scent of his cologne. You want to know something? He said, his tone soft but serious. I felt the same way when I started here. She looked up, surprised. You, Mr. CEO? He chuckled, running a hand through his chestnut hair. Yeah, me. I grew up in a working-class family in Lincoln Park, scraping by. Got into law school on a scholarship, but when I landed here, everyone saw me as the kid who didn't belong. I worked twice as hard to prove them wrong. Sound familiar? Amara nodded, her chest tightening. His story echoed hers. Different battles, same fight. It's not just hard work, she said, her voice steadier now. It's like I'm carrying the weight of everyone's doubts. If I mess up, it's not just me. It's proof I was never supposed to be here. James leaned forward, his blue eyes intense. "You're here because you're damn good, Amara. I saw it in that elevator, and I see it every day. Those doubts. They're not yours. They're theirs." His words landed like a lifeline, pulling her back from the edge of her fears. For a moment, they sat in silence, the hum of the office, the only sound. Amara felt the air shift, his closeness, stirring something she wasn't ready to name. She cleared her throat, pushing the contract toward him. "Found a flaw in Section 3.1. It's too vague on liability caps. I wrote a fix." James scanned her notes, his expression shifting to admiration. "This is sharp. You're not just cut out for this. You're better than half the lawyers here." Amara managed a small laugh, but her heart raced, not from the praise, but from how he looked at her, like he saw more than her work. "Don't get soft on me, Carter," she said, deflecting with a playful jab. He grinned, standing. "Wouldn't dream of it, Jackson. Go home. You've earned it." Amara watched his silhouette against the skyline as he walked away, her resolve hardening. She wasn't an imposter. She was a fighter, and she'd prove it, doubts be damned. But as she packed up, Victor's earlier morning glare flashed in her mind. He'd be back with something worse, and now with James's faith in her, the stakes felt personal. She grabbed her bag, the coffee he'd left warming her hand. This job was her chance to rewrite her story, but the warmth in James's eyes was a complication she hadn't planned for. She pushed it aside, focusing on the fight ahead. The Carter and Stone office hummed with mid-morning energy, and the Chicago skyline starkly contrasted the tension brewing within the glass walls. Amara sat at her desk, her braided bun tight, and her blouse crisp, poring over a contract for a later client meeting. Her success with Ms. Harper had earned her a nod from James, but the whispers from other lawyers hadn't stopped. Victor's cold glares reminded her that her place here was a battle she'd have to keep fighting. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the contract's fine print. Lena slid into the chair beside her, her curly hair bouncing as she leaned in, voice low. "Trouble's coming, Amara. I overheard Victor in the break room bragging to his buddies about putting the new girl in her place. He's got something planned." Amara's pen paused, her stomach tightening. "What's he up to?" Lena glanced around, ensuring no one was listening. "He slipped a contract into your pile. There's a trap in it, something to make you look careless if you sign it. He's betting you won't notice." Amara's jaw clenched, but she kept her expression neutral. "He thinks I'm that sloppy." Lena smirked. "He thinks you're too confident to double-check. Be careful." Amara nodded, her mind racing. Victor wasn't just testing her. He wanted her gone. She flipped through the stack of contracts on her desk, searching for the one Lena described. She found it by the third page of a supplier agreement, a cleverly hidden clause in Section 5.4, worded to waive the client's right to financial compensation if signed. It was subtle, buried in dense legalese, easy to miss for someone rushing. She leaned back, a calculated smile forming. Victor wanted to play dirty. She'd play smarter. Instead of confronting him, she grabbed a sticky note and wrote, "Clause 5.4 contradicts Section 12.2. Suggest rewording to protect the client's compensation rights." She attached it to the contract and handed it to Lena. "Get this back to Victor. Let's see how he squirms." Lena's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Oh, I need to see his face when he reads this." "You're wicked." Amara shrugged, her smile widening, and just doing my job. An hour later, Victor stormed to her desk, the contract clutched in his hand, his slicked back hair slightly askew. "What's this note about?" he demanded, his voice tight. Amara looked up, feigning innocence. "Oh, you didn't see that clause? It would have cost the client millions. You'd want to fix it before it went to James." Victor's face reddened, his attempt to trap her backfiring. "It was a draft," he muttered. but his eyes betrayed his frustration. "Sure it was," Amara said, her tone sweet but sharp. "I'm happy to help catch those oversights." Victor turned on his heel, storming off as Lena stifled a laugh from her desk. "You're a legend," she whispered. Amara shook her head, her heart still racing. Outsmarting Victor felt good, but was a warning he'd come back harder. She returned to her work, her resolve steeling. This firm was a chessboard, and she wasn't just a pawn. She was learning the game, and she'd play to win. Later, James stopped by, a folder in hand. He said, "You caught a mistake in Victor's contract," his blue eyes glinting with approval. "Nice work." Amara met his gaze, a flicker of pride warming her, and kept the client safe. He leaned closer, his voice low. "You're shaking things up, Amara. Keep it up, but watch your back. Victor's not done." She nodded, the weight of his warning settling in. "I can handle him." As James walked away, Amara felt a mix of triumph and unease. Victor's sabotage had failed, but his ambition to replace James meant he'd target her again. She thought of her mother's words. "You don't win by playing nice. You win by being better." She straightened her shoulders, ready for the next move. The office might be hostile, but it was her battlefield now, and she wasn't backing down. The Chicago River shimmered under the evening lights, its surface reflecting the city's skyline, as Amara stepped into the upscale restaurant at Riverwalk. Her black dress, a sleek find from a thrift store, hugged her frame, and her braided hair cascaded loosely over her shoulders, a rare departure from her usual office bun. She felt out of place among the clinking wine glasses and linen tablecloths, but James's invitation to join a client dinner had been firm. "You're ready for this, Amara?" Her nerves buzzed, not just for the client, but for the way James's gaze lingered lately. Inside, James stood by a reserved table, his tailored gray suit accentuating his tall frame, his chestnut hair catching the soft lighting. "You clean up nice, Jackson," he said with a playful grin, pulling out a chair for her. Amara smirked, sitting with practiced poise. "Don't get used to it, Carter. This is a one-night deal." His chuckle warmed the air, but her heart skipped when their eyes met a spark she quickly pushed down. This was work, not a date, she reminded herself. The client, Mr. Langston, a burly real estate mogul with a booming laugh, arrived minutes later. "So, Carter, this is your new star?" he asked, shaking Amara's hand. "She's the one keeping your contracts tight." James nodded, his pride evident. "Amara's got a sharper eye than most lawyers here." She forced a confident smile, aware of the weight of his trust. As dinner began, talk turned to Langston's new development deal, a multi-million-dollar project needing ironclad terms. Amara opened her folder, her voice steady. "Mr. Langston, your draft contract's solid, but Section 6.3 leaves you vulnerable to cost overruns if the contractor delays. I propose a clause capping your liability and tying payments to verified milestones." She slid a revised page across her law school precision shining. Langston scanned it, nodding. "Smart. That saves me a headache." James's subtle nod of approval bolstered her, but she stayed focused, easing the discussion. As dessert arrived, Langston excused himself to take a call, leaving Amara and James alone. The river's glow through the window cast a soft light over the table, and the hum of the restaurant faded. "You were brilliant," James said, his voice low, his blue eyes holding hers. Amara toyed with her napkin, deflecting, "And just doing my job." He leaned closer, undeterred. "It's more than that. You make it look effortless." Her pulse quickened, his sincerity disarming her carefully built walls. They stepped outside after dinner, Langston's deal secured, and lingered by the river's edge. The cool breeze carried the scent of water, and Amara shivered, her dress no match for the evening chill. James offered his jacket, draping it over her shoulders. "Thanks," she murmured, the warmth of his gesture stirring something deeper. So he said, hands in pockets. Why law? What's driving you? The question caught her off guard, but the moment's quiet loosened her guard. I grew up seeing people in my neighborhood get screwed over evictions, bad contracts. No one to fight for them, she said, staring at the river. I wanted to change that and be the one who stands up for them. James nodded, his expression thoughtful. I get that. This firm's too focused on big money. I want to shift it, make it mean something beyond profits. Their shared vision hung between them, a bridge across their different worlds. The air thickened his closeness, sending her heart racing. James, we can't. She started, stepping back. This is work. He held her gaze, unflinching. I know. But I'm not imagining this. Am I? Amara swallowed, unable to deny the pull between them, but she turned away, the jacket still warm on her shoulders. I need to keep my head clear, she said, her voice firm but soft. He nodded, respecting her boundary. Fair enough, but I'm not going anywhere. Amara walked to the bus stop. As they parted, her mind a whirlwind. James's words, his belief in her, and that unspoken spark threatened to blur the lines she'd drawn. Victor's schemes were one thing. This was a different kind of danger, one she wasn't sure she could outsmart. The Carter and Stone office buzzed with a tense undercurrent, the Chicago skyline a muted gray through the glass walls as storm clouds gathered outside. Amara sat at her desk, her braided hair pulled into a tight bun, her fingers steady as she reviewed a contract. Her recent triumph at the client dinner had earned her a nod from Mr. Langston, but Victor's silence since his failed sabotage attempt felt ominous. She sensed he was planning something bigger, and the air in the office confirmed it. Whispers and sidelong glances followed her every move. Lena rushed over, her curly hair frazzled, clutching a printed email. Amara, you need to see this, she said, her voice low but urgent. Victor's gone nuclear. Amara scanned the email and her stomach dropped. It was a formal complaint to the board, accusing her of being unqualified and alleging that James hired her through irregular favoritism. The meeting was set for 3 p.m. Attendance mandatory. Amara's jaw tightened. He's trying to get me fired. Lena nodded grimly. He's got allies on the board. This is his big swing. Amara leaned back, her mind racing. Victor wasn't just attacking her, he was challenging James's authority, using her as a pawn to undermine the CEO. She grabbed her old law school transcripts and a folder of her recent contract reviews, her resolve hardening. If he wants a fight, he's getting one. Lena squeezed her shoulder. Show them who you are. Amara gave a determined nod, her nerves masked by a steely focus. She'd fought more brutal battles than this. She wasn't about to lose now. At 3 p.m., the conference room was packed, the air thick with anticipation. James sat at the far end, his navy suit crisp, his expression unreadable. Victor stood near Mr. Ellis, the board chair, his slicked-back hair gleaming under the lights, a smug smile betraying his confidence. Mr. Ellis, a stern man with wire-rimmed glasses, cleared his throat. We address Mr. Reynolds's concerns about Ms. Jackson's hiring. Victor, proceed. Victor's voice was smooth, calculated. Ms. Jackson lacks a law degree and formal experience. Her hiring bypasses firm standards, risking our reputation. I move for a review of her employment. The room murmured, some lawyers nodding. Amara felt the weight of their stares, but kept her posture straight, her eyes locked on Victor. Mr. Ellis turned to her. Ms. Jackson, your response? Amara stood, sliding a folder across the table. My law school transcripts from Chicago, Kent, where I maintained a 3.8 GPA before personal circumstances forced me to pause. My work here, contract revisions for Ms. Harper and Mr. Langston, saved clients millions. If Victor questions his qualifications, He may explain his oversight in last week's supplier contract. She paused, letting the jab land. The one that would have cost us a client if I hadn't caught it. The room went silent. Victor's smile faltered, his face reddening. James leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. Amara's contributions speak for themselves. Her hiring was my decision based on her proven ability. Mr. Ellis reviewed the folder, his brow furrowing as he read Amara's notes and client feedback. Then he turned to Victor, his tone icy. Mr. Reynolds, your recent case loss cost a client thousands due to a missed clause. Care to address that? Victor stammered, his confidence crumbling. That was an anomaly. Mr. Ellis closed the folder with a snap. Ms. Jackson was hired on merit. Her record here is exemplary. This complaint is baseless and a waste of the board's time. If you wish to remain at this firm, focus on your work. The room buzzed with whispers as Victor's allies shifted uncomfortably. Amara kept her expression neutral, but inside she was soaring. As the meeting ended, Victor stormed out, his jaw clenched. James approached Amara, a proud smile breaking through his usual composure. You handled that like a seasoned lawyer. Amara exhaled, her tension easing. Thanks for having my back. He nodded, his eyes lingering. Always. The word carried a weight that made her heart skip, but she pushed it aside. Victor was down but not out, and she needed to stay sharp. The Carter and Stone office was quiet after the board meeting, the Chicago skyline glowing faintly through the glass walls as the afternoon faded. Amara sat at her desk, her braided hair still in its tight bun, her fingers lingering over a contract she barely saw. Victor's failed complaint had cemented her place at the firm, but the victory felt hollow against the growing tension. She couldn't ignore the way James's gaze held hers too long, the warmth in his voice when he'd said, always. Her heart raced at the memory, but she pushed it down. She was here to build a career, not complicate it. Lena appeared, her curly hair bouncing as she perched on the desk's edge. Girl, you obliterated Victor in there. The whole office is buzzing. Amara managed a smile, tucking a pen behind her ear. Good. Maybe they'll stop whispering now. Lena's grin turned sly. Oh, they're whispering about you and James. That look he gave you, pure sparks. Amara's stomach flipped and she busied herself with papers. Lena, it's work. Nothing else. Lena raised an eyebrow. Keep telling yourself that. Before Amara could argue, James's voice came from behind. Amara, my office. His tone was calm, but his blue eyes held an intensity that made her pulse skip. She nodded, grabbing her notebook as a shield, and followed him. Inside, he closed the door, the soft click amplifying the silence. He leaned against his desk, his chestnut hair slightly tousled, his tie loosened. You were incredible today, he said, his voice low. Victor didn't stand a chance. Amara shrugged, deflecting and just doing my job. But James stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. It's more than that. You're changing this place, making it better. And I... He paused, searching for words, his usual confidence faltering. I can't stop thinking about you. The air thickened, his confession hanging between them. Amara's breath caught her carefully built walls trembling. She'd felt the pull too. The late-night talks, the river walk, his unwavering support. But admitting it felt like stepping off a cliff. James, we can't, she said, her voice firm but shaky. I'm finally proving myself here. If people think I'm only here because of you, everything I've done gets erased. She looked away, her fingers tightening on her notebook. I've fought too hard to be seen as more than someone's girlfriend. James nodded, his expression softening. I get it. You're worried about perception, about losing what you've earned. He stepped closer, his voice earnest. But I see you, Amara. Not as my assistant, not as a project. As you, brilliant, fierce, and someone I'm falling for. Her heart pounded his words, unraveling her defenses. She thought of her mother's sacrifices, her years of scraping by the whispers in the office. It's not just perception, she said, meeting his eyes. It's about me keeping my focus. I can't afford to mess this up, not when I'm so close to getting my life back. James's gaze held hers, steady and sincere. I'd never ask you to risk that. But I'm not imagining this between us, am I? The question hung raw and unguarded. Amara's resolve wavered. She saw every moment they'd shared the elevator argument, the late-night contract fixes, the jacket on her shoulders by the river. Denying it felt like lying to herself. She took a deep breath, her voice barely above a whisper. No, you're not. Before she could second-guess, she stepped forward, closing the gap, and kissed him. It was brief, electric, releasing all the tension they'd danced around. James's hand brushed her cheek, his touch gentle but sure, and for a moment, the world outside the office vanished. She pulled back, her heart racing, reality crashing in. This doesn't change anything, she said, half to him, half to herself. I'm still here to do my job. James smiled, a mix of relief and hope in his eyes. And I'm still here to support you however you want this to go. Amara nodded, stepping toward the door, her mind a whirlwind. She'd crossed a line, but it felt right, like a piece of herself she'd locked away had finally broken free. The Chicago skyline sparkled from the rooftop restaurant, its lights dancing across Lake Michigan as Amara stepped out of the elevator. Her elegant burgundy dress shimmered under the soft glow of string lights, her braided hair styled in an intricate updo, a gift from Nia's salon skills. 4 months had passed since her kiss with James in his office, and their relationship had grown quietly, a steady undercurrent beneath her rising star at Carter & Stone. Tonight's dinner, James had said, was to celebrate her latest client win, but his secretive smile hinted at more. James stood by a private table, his tailored black suit sharp, his chestnut hair catching the evening breeze. His blue eyes lit up as she approached. You look stunning, Amara, he said, pulling out her chair with a grin. She sat smirking. You're not so bad yourself, Carter. What's with the mystery tonight? He chuckled, pouring her a glass of wine. Patience. Jackson, enjoy the view first. She raised an eyebrow, but clinked her glass with his. The city's hum, a backdrop to their easy banter. Over dinner, they talked about the firm. Her recent contract for a tech startup had earned her a mention in a legal journal, a milestone that felt like a nod to her law school dreams. James shared his plans to launch a pro bono program, inspired by her passion for community justice. You're changing me, Amara, he said, his voice soft. I want this firm to stand for something bigger. Her heart swelled, but she deflected with a tease. Don't go soft on me now. As dessert arrived, a delicate chocolate tart, the waiter placed a small envelope beside her plate. Amara frowned, glancing at James, whose grin widened. Open it, he urged. She slid out a single sheet, her breath catching as she read. It was a mock legal document styled as a partnership agreement. Still, the terms were personal. James Carter and Amara Jackson agreed to a lifelong commitment of mutual support, love, and challenge. Her eyes widened, and she looked up to find James on one knee, a velvet box in hand. The restaurant's chatter faded as he opened the box, revealing a diamond ring that caught the light like a star. Amara Jackson. He began, his voice steady but thick with emotion. From that elevator argument, I knew you were different. You've challenged me, inspired me, and made every moment better. You're my partner, in-law, in life, in everything. Will you marry me? The words hung in the air, raw and sincere, his eyes searching hers. Amara's throat tightened. tears prickling as memories flashed their late-night talks, her triumph over Victor, the Riverwalk, where she'd almost let him in. She'd fought hard to stand independently, but James had never asked her to be less. He'd lifted her, believing in her when she doubted herself. A laugh escaped her, breaking the tension. "You used a legal document to propose only you, Carter." The crowd around them chuckled, but her voice softened. "Yes, James, I will." He slid the ring onto her finger, its weight a promise, and stood pulling her into a kiss that felt like coming home. The restaurant erupted in applause, diners raising glasses, as Amara laughed against his lips, her heart soaring. "You're impossible," she murmured, resting her forehead against his. He grinned, his hands framing her face. "And you love it." She did every infuriating, brilliant part of him. They sat back down, hands intertwined, the city's lights a backdrop to their quiet joy. "This doesn't mean I'm fetching your coffee," she teased, sipping her wine. James laughed, his thumb brushing her ring. "Wouldn't dream of it. But I'm counting on you to keep me in line." Amara smiled, feeling loved and seen as an equal, a partner. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Victor still lurked, and the firm's old guard wouldn't soften. But she was ready with James by her side. The Chicago Botanic Garden bloomed under a perfect June sky, its white roses and vibrant kente-cloth accents weaving a tapestry of celebration. Amara stood in a flowing white gown, its lace shimmering as she clutched a bouquet of lilies, her braided hair adorned with delicate gold pins. The hum of guests and soft Afrobeat music filled the air, a nod to her Southside roots blended with James's minimalist elegance. Today was their wedding day, culminating in a journey that began with an elevator argument and led to a love she never expected. Nia, her maid of honor, adjusted Amara's veil, her eyes misty. "I never thought I'd see you this happy, girl," she whispered, her vibrant afro crowned with a floral pin. Amara laughed, squeezing her hand. "Me neither. But here we are." Nia grinned. "From delivery bike to the bride of a CEO, you're a legend." Amara's heart swelled, thinking of her path, outsmarting Victor, reclaiming her legal dreams, and finding James, who saw her strength from day one. The ceremony began, and Amara walked down the aisle, her eyes locked on James. He stood at the altar in a tailored black tux, his chestnut hair catching the sunlight, his blue eyes shining with love. The crowd, family, friends, and a few Carter and Stone colleagues faded as she reached him. He took her hands, his voice low. "You're breathtaking." She smirked, whispering, "Don't mess this up, Carter." His chuckle eased her nerves, their banter a familiar anchor. The officiant, a warm woman, with a gentle smile, began. Amara and James barely heard the words lost in each other. James spoke first, when it was time for vows, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "Amara, you challenged me from that elevator moment, showing me what courage looks like. You've made me a better man, and I promise to support love and argue with you respectfully for the rest of my life." The guests laughed, and Amara's eyes glistened, his words echoing their shared journey. She took a breath, her voice clear. "James, you saw me when I doubted myself, pushing me to fight for my place. You're my partner, my challenge, my home. I promise to stand by you, to keep you honest, and never to let you win an elevator argument again." Laughter rippled through the crowd, and James grinned, squeezing her hands. The officiant smiled. "James Carter, do you take Amara Jackson as your wife?" "I do," he said, his gaze unwavering. "Amara Jackson, do you take James Carter as your husband?" "I do," she replied, her heart soaring. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." James pulled her close, his kiss passionate yet tender, sealing their vows as the guests cheered. Amara laughed against his lips. the world a blur of joy. At the reception, Lena, now studying law part-time, gave a toast, her glasses glinting. To Amara and James, the power couple who turned an office into a love story. The crowd raised glasses, and Amara caught Victor's silhouette at the edge, his slicked-back hair unmistakable. He'd stayed at the firm sidelined, but silent, his defeat a quiet victory for her. As they danced under the stars, James whispered, "Ready for our next challenge, Mrs. Carter?" Amara smirked, her ring sparkling. "Bring it on, Mr. Carter." She thought of her mother's pride, Malik's college dreams she now supported, and her path from delivery worker to legal star. Carter and Stone's pro bono program, her brainchild with James, was launching soon, a step toward her community justice goals. She'd found her place not just in love, but in purpose. What's your take on Amara and James's epic wedding? Drop forever vows in the comments if you're loving their happy ending, moved by their journey. Smash that like button to celebrate and subscribe with the bell to catch more stories like theirs.